Buddy Holly, also recognized as the legendary figure of mid-1950s rock and roll, was an exceptional American singer and songwriter. Hailing from a family with a deep musical background, he was born in Lubbock, Texas, during the challenging times of the Great Depression. Growing up, he honed his guitar skills and vocal abilities while jamming with his siblings. Holly's unique musical style was shaped by the captivating sounds of gospel, country, and rhythm and blues, which he skillfully showcased alongside his high school buddies in Lubbock. But unfortunately, his time was cut short at 22 years. Before he died, he revealed a secret that left everyone broken. In the bustling streets of Lubbock, Texas, amidst the hardships of the Great Depression, a star was quietly taking shape. Born into the embrace of Lawrence Odell Hello, Holly and Ella Pauline Drake on September 7, 1936, Charles Hardin Holly emerged as the youngest of 4 siblings, joining the ranks of Larry, Travis, and Patricia. Life for the Holly family was a dance of resilience and adaptation as they navigated the ever-changing landscape of Lubbock. Amidst the turmoil of the times, music became their sanctuary, a language spoken fluently by all save for Elo himself. The stage was set for Buddy's ascent when fate intervened during a local talent show, where his brother's harmonies beckoned him to join. With a violin in hand and a brother's ingenuity, Buddy's silent strings still sang victory, etching his name in the annals of their triumph. As the world plunged into the chaos of World War II, Larry and Travis answered the call to arms, leaving behind a legacy that would shape Buddy's destiny. A guitar, a relic of distant seas, became his beacon of hope upon their return, illuminating a path paved with passion and purpose. Guided by his mother's gentle nudges, Buddy briefly explored the keys of a piano before fate intervened once more, casting his gaze upon a classmate's serenade aboard a school bus. With a heart set on strings, Buddy's insistence led his parents to bestow upon him an acoustic guitar, a treasure unearthed from the depths of a local pawnshop. Under Travis's patient guidance, Buddy's fingers found their rhythm upon the frets, weaving tales of love and loss with each chord strummed. And so, the legend of Buddy Holly began, a symphony of resilience and rhythm, echoing through the corridors of time, leaving an indelible mark upon the world of music. During his formative years, Holly was exposed to the sounds of Hank Williams, Jimmy Rogers, Moon Mullican, Bill Monroe, Hank Snow, Bob Wills, and the Carter family. At Roscoe Wilson Elementary, Holly struck up a friendship with Bob Montgomery, and the two jammed together, honing their skills with tunes by the Louvin brothers and Johnny and Jack. They bonded over listening to the likes of Grand Ole Opry on WSM, Louisiana Hayride on KWKH, and Big D Jamboree on the radio. Meanwhile, Holly collaborated with fellow musicians from high school, such as Sonny Curtis and Jerry Allison. In 1952, Holly and Jack Neal teamed up as Buddy and Jack for a talent competition on a local TV program. When Neal departed, Bob Montgomery stepped in, and they became known as Buddy and Bob. Their journey continued with appearances on the Sunday Party Show on KDAV in 1953 and live performances in Lubbock. During this period, Holly's musical tastes expanded to include late-night blues and R&B radio stations. He would sit in his car with Curtis, tuning into distant stations that only came in clearly at night. This exposure led Holly to blend his country and Western roots with R&B influences, shaping his unique sound. After graduating from Lubbock High School in 1955, Holly made the decision to pursue a full-time career in music. His passion was further fueled after witnessing Elvis Presley's electrifying performances in Lubbock, which were arranged by Pappy Dave Stone of KDAV. Holly had the opportunity to open for Presley at various venues, such as the Fair Park Coliseum in February, the Cotton Club in April, and the Coliseum in June. By then, Holly had transformed his band by adding Larry Wellborn on stand-up bass and Allison on drums, transitioning his musical style from country and western to rock and roll, inspired by Presley's music and stage presence. In October, Stone arranged for Holly to open for Bill Haley and his Comets, catching the attention of Nashville scout Eddie Crandall. Impressed by Holly's performance, Crandall convinced Grand Ole Opry manager Jim Denny to secure a recording contract for him. Stone sent a demo tape to Denny, who then passed it on to Paul Cohen. Subsequently, the band was signed to Decca Records in February 1956. However, there was a slight hiccup in the contract. Decca misspelled Holly's surname as Holly, leading to the iconic name change from Hollies to Buddy Holly. On January 26, 1956, Buddy Holly made his debut at a formal recording session under the guidance of Owen Bradley. Despite attending a few more sessions in Nashville, Holly felt frustrated by the lack of creative control as the producer took charge of selecting the musicians and arrangements. In April 1956, Decca released Blue Days, Black Nights as a single, with Love Me on the B-side. Holly was then included in a tour as the opening act for Farron Young, initially promoted as Buddy Holly and the Two Tones, and later as Buddy Holly and the Three Tunes. Although his second single, Modern Don Juan with You Are My One Desire, did not make an impact, Holly's journey continued. On January 22, 1957, Decca decided not to renew his contract, restricting him from recording the same songs for 5 years. Unsatisfied with the outcome of his time with Decca, Holly sought inspiration from the triumphs of Buddy Knox's Party Doll and Jimmy Bowen's I'm Stickin' With You. Motivated by their success, he decided to pay a visit to Norman Petty, the mastermind behind both records. Accompanied by Allison, bassist Larry Wellborn, and rhythm guitarist Nicky Sullivan, Holly made his way to Petty's studio in Clovis, New Mexico. It was there that the group recorded a demo of That'll Be the Day, a song they had previously laid down in Nashville. Taking on the role of lead guitarist, Holly finally achieved the desired sound. Impressed by Holly's talent, Petty took on the role of his manager and sent the record to Brunswick Records in New York City. However, due to Holly's existing contract with Decca, he couldn't release the record under his own name. As a solution, the band adopted the name Crickets as suggested by Allison. Brunswick granted Holly a basic agreement to release That'll Be the Day, granting him full artistic control and financial responsibility for future recordings. Captivated by the demo's charm, the label's higher-ups decided to forego recording a new rendition, opting instead to release it as it was. Positioned as the B-side, I'm Looking for Someone to Love found its place, with a single attributed to the Crickets. Little did Petty and Holly know, Brunswick, the label's parent company, paved the way for future recordings under Holly's name. This strategic move ensured that recordings attributed to the Crickets would find their home on Brunswick, while those under Holly's name would grace the shelves of Coral Records, another subsidiary label. In a stroke of genius, Norman Petty foresaw the reluctance of disc jockeys to promote multiple releases from the same artist. To overcome this hurdle, he ingeniously credited the same recordings to different performers. Unbeknownst to Holly himself, this tactical maneuver was unveiled during a 1957 radio interview with Dale Lowery. Holly candidly shared his confusion, remarking on the trio of releases, That'll Be the Day as the pioneer, followed by the Crickets, Oh Boy, and Not Fade Away, and finally, Peggy Sue, and Everyday under his own name. The labels bore the mark of either Buddy Holly or the Crickets, with the latter not receiving official credit until 1962 when a compilation album finally united them as Buddy Holly and the Crickets. On July 27, 1957, That'll Be the Day burst into the world, setting the stage for Buddy Holly and the Crickets' meteoric rise to fame. Norman Petty wasted no time in capitalizing on their newfound success, securing a tour with Irvin Feld, whose keen eye had caught wind of the band's potential after their hit landed on the R&B charts. Their journey took them from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, and finally to the pulsating heart of New York City. Booked for a stint at the iconic Apollo Theater from August 16 to 22, Holly and the Crickets faced a lukewarm reception during their opening acts. However, a stroke of genius changed their fortunes as they infused their set with the infectious rhythm of Bo Diddley, winning over the crowd and earning their acceptance. As the days passed, so did their fortunes, with That'll Be the Day steadily climbing the charts. Emboldened by the single's triumph, Norman Petty set his sights on a grander vision, not one, but two album releases. One would showcase Holly's solo talent, while the other would pay homage to the collective genius of the Crickets. Amidst this whirlwind of success, Holly found himself gracing the iconic stage of American Bandstand on August 26, welcomed by the affable host Dick Clark. Before bidding farewell to the bustling streets of New York, fate intervened once more as the band forged a friendship with none other than the Everly Brothers, cementing their place in the annals of rock and roll history. That'll Be the Day dominated the charts, claiming the top spot on the US bestsellers in stores chart on September 23. It also reigned supreme on the UK singles chart for 3 consecutive weeks in November. Just a few days before this triumph, Coral released Peggy Sue as a single, featuring Holly as the performer and backed by the track Everyday. Peggy Sue quickly climbed the charts, reaching number 3 on Billboard's pop chart and number 2 on the R&B chart. It also peaked at number 6 on the UK singles chart. The song's success brought Buddy Holly into the spotlight, and the band was now billed as Buddy Holly and the Crickets. This change in billing, however, was never reflected on their records during Holly's lifetime. In late September, the band members took a trip to Lubbock to visit their families. During this time, Holly's high school girlfriend, Echo McGuire, had left him for another student. Aside from McGuire, Holly had also been involved with a fan from Lubbock named June Clark. However, after Clark ended their relationship, Holly realized the significance of his connection with McGuire and considered his involvement with Clark to be temporary. Meanwhile, Petty, the producer, arranged a recording session in Oklahoma City for their return to the studio. While the band made their way to the location, Petty set up a makeshift studio. They recorded the remaining songs needed for an album and singles. Later, Petty dubbed the material in Clovis. The resulting album, titled The Chirping Crickets, was released on November 27, 1957, and achieved the impressive feat of reaching number 5 on the UK albums chart. In October, Brunswick released the Crickets' second single, Oh Boy, with Not Fade Away on the B-side. This single reached number 10 on the pop chart and 13 on the R&B chart. To further showcase their talent, Holly and the Crickets performed That'll Be the Day and Peggy Sue on The Ed Sullivan Show on December 1, 1957. Following this memorable appearance, Nicky Sullivan decided to leave the group due to exhaustion from the demanding touring schedule and a desire to continue his education. On December 29, Holly and the Crickets performed Peggy Sue on the Arthur Murray Party. On January 8, 1958, Holly and the Crickets embarked on the America's Greatest Teenage Recording Stars tour. Just a few weeks later, on January 25, Holly recorded the hit song Rave On before making a second appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show the following day, performing Oh Boy. Holly then jetted off to Honolulu, Hawaii on January 27, kicking off a week-long tour of Australia known as The Big Show alongside Paul Anka, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Jody Sands. The band continued their musical journey in March with a tour of the United Kingdom, playing an impressive 50 shows in just 25 days. During the same month, Holly's debut solo album, Buddy Holly, was released. Upon their return to the US, Holly and the Crickets joined Alan Freed's Big Beat Show tour for 41 dates. In April, Decca released That'll Be the Day, which included songs recorded during Holly's early Nashville sessions with Bradley. A new recording session was set up in Clovis in May, where Holly brought on Tommy Allsup to play lead guitar. The session resulted in the recordings of It's So Easy and Heartbeat. Impressed by Allsup's talent, Holly invited him to join the Crickets. In June, Holly ventured to New York for a solo recording session, opting to be backed by a jazz and R&B band for tracks like Now We're One and Bobby Darin's Early in the Morning. During a visit to Pierre Southern's offices, Holly crossed paths with Maria Elena Santiago. He wasted no time and popped the question on their first date. The wedding bells rang on August 15th. Despite Norman Petty's attempts to discourage the marriage, Holly was determined to tie the knot. Holly and Santiago were regulars at New York's music hotspots like the Village Gate, Blue Note, Village Vanguard, and Johnny Johnson's. Santiago mentioned that Holly was eager to master fingerstyle flamenco guitar and often jammed on the piano at her aunt's place. Holly had big plans for music collaborations, dreaming of making an album with Ray Charles and Mahalia Jackson. He also had his sights set on the film industry, signing up for acting classes at Lee Strasberg's Actors Studio. Santiago joined Holly on his tours, posing as the cricket secretary to keep their marriage under wraps. She handled everything from laundry to concert finances, ensuring the band's earnings stayed safe. Santiago and her aunt Provy Garcia, a Peer Southern executive, convinced Holly that Petty was pocketing the band's royalties. Holly decided to take matters into his own hands, hiring lawyer Harold Orenstein to sort out his royalties. Trouble brewed when Petty couldn't pay up, leading to a legal battle with New York promoter Manny Greenfield. Greenfield, who had booked Holly for shows in the past, demanded a higher cut of the earnings, sparking a lawsuit. Under the laws of New York, Holly's royalties were put on hold until the dispute was resolved because they originated in New York and were sent out of the state. In September, Holly went back to Clovis for a recording session where he produced songs like Reminiscing and Come Back Baby. During this session, he also took on the role of a producer and recorded Waylon Jennings, a DJ from Lubbock. Holly produced Jennings' singles Joel Blon and When Sin Stops, Love Begins. As time went on, Holly became more fascinated with the music, recording, and publishing scene in New York. He and Santiago settled in apartment for H of the Brevoort Apartments in Greenwich Village, where he recorded a series of acoustic songs, including Crying, Waiting, Hopings, and What to Do. Some say that the inspiration for these songs came from the end of his relationship with McGuire. On October 21, 1958, Holly had his final studio session at the Pythian Temple on West 70th Street, which is now a luxury condominium. This session, known as the String Sessions among Holly fans, involved him recording songs for choral. It was an innovative collaboration with an 18-piece ensemble made up of former members of the NBC Symphony Orchestra, led by Dick Jacobs. During the 3+1 2-hour session, 4 incredible songs were recorded. These songs included True Love Ways by Buddy Holly, Moondreams by Norman Petty, Raining in My Heart by Felice and Boudleaux Bryant, and It Doesn't Matter Anymore by Paul Anka. Out of these 4 songs, only Raining in My Heart was released in stereo on a promotional LP called Hitsville in 1959. The rest of the records were released in mono. Interestingly, these 4 songs were the only ones Coral ever mixed in stereo. Many years later, the original stereo mixes were consulted for compilation albums, showcasing their timeless brilliance. In December 1958, Holly decided to end his association with Petty. However, his band members chose to keep Petty as their manager and parted ways with Holly on good terms. The split was purely based on logistics, as Holly had made the decision to settle permanently in New York where the business and publishing offices were located. On the other hand, the Crickets preferred to stay in their home state. Despite the separation, the musical legacy they created together will forever be cherished. In December 1958, Holly and his wife decided to take a vacation in Lubbock. During their trip, they made a special visit to Jennings's radio station. It was an exciting time for Holly as he was preparing for the Winter Dance Party tour. To make it a success, he handpicked a talented band consisting of Waylon Jennings on electric bass, Tommy Allsop on guitar, and Carl Bunch on drums. The journey began when Holly and Jennings left for New York City on January 15, 1959. They stayed at Holly's apartment near Washington Square Park, eagerly anticipating a meeting at the headquarters of the General Artists Corporation, the tour's organizer. Afterward, they embarked on a train journey to Chicago, where they would join the rest of the band. The Winter Dance Party Tour kicked off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on January 23, 1959. The extensive travel involved led to logistical issues, as the distances between venues were not taken into account during the planning of performances. To make matters worse, the unheated tour buses broke down twice in freezing weather, resulting in serious consequences. Holly's drummer, Carl Bunch, ended up in the hospital due to frostbite on his toes, which he got while on the bus, prompting Holly to look for alternative transportation. On February 2nd, before their gig in Clear Lake, Iowa, Holly arranged for a 4-seat Beechcraft Bonanza airplane for Jennings, Allsup, and himself from Dwyer Flying Service in Mason City, Iowa. Holly's plan was to leave after the Clear Lake show and fly to their next destination in Moorhead, Minnesota, via Fargo, North Dakota, giving them a chance to rest, do laundry, and avoid a grueling bus ride. Following the Clear Lake performance, which finished just before midnight, Allsup agreed to flip a coin with Richie Valens for a seat on the plane. Valens called heads and won, exclaiming, "That's the first time I've ever won anything in my life." Allsup later went on to open a restaurant bar in Fort Worth, Texas, named Heads Up Saloon. Waylon Jennings selflessly gave up his seat to J.P. Richardson, the Big Bopper, who was suffering from the flu and found the tour bus too cold and uncomfortable for someone of his stature. Roger Peterson, the pilot, took off in bad weather conditions, despite lacking certification to fly solely by instruments. Larry Holly, Buddy's brother, shared, "I finally received the full report from the Civil Aeronautics after a year of waiting. They had installed a new spy gyroscope in the plane. The spy gyroscope operates differently from others. In one type, the background moves while the plane remains stationary, and in the other, the background remains still while the plane moves. It's the opposite." The pilot could have misinterpreted this. They were descending, thinking they were ascending. Shortly after 1 a.m. on February 3, 1959, Holly, Valens, Richardson, and Peterson tragically lost their lives when the plane crashed into a cornfield just 5 miles northwest of Mason City shortly after takeoff. The 3 musicians suffered severe head and chest injuries after being ejected from the fuselage upon impact. Holly was only 22 years old. The report did not mention a gun belonging to Holly that was discovered by a farmer 2 months post-crash. Speculation arose among fans due to newspaper reports about the gun, suggesting that the pilot may have been shot, leading to the crash. Another puzzling discovery was that Richardson's body was found nearly 40 feet away from the crash site, while the others were located inside or near the wreckage. However, an autopsy conducted in 2007 at the request of Richardson's son found no evidence supporting these rumors. Dr. Bill Bass, a forensic anthropologist at the University of Tennessee, confirmed that there was no indication of foul play, and that Richardson died instantly. Version 1, Santiago witnessed the initial news of Holly's passing on the television, and the next day, she tragically experienced a miscarriage. Holly's mother, who learned about the tragedy through the radio in Lubbock, Texas, let out a piercing scream and collapsed. Due to Elena's miscarriage, certain government authorities decided to refrain from disclosing the names of the victims until their families were notified. Santiago chose not to attend the funeral and has never made a visit to the gravesite. In an interview with the Avalanche Journal, she expressed, "In a way, I hold myself responsible. I wasn't feeling well when he departed. I was 2 weeks pregnant, and I desperately wanted Buddy to stay by my side, but he had already scheduled that tour. It was the only time I wasn't with him. And I blame myself because I know that if I had just gone along, Buddy would have never boarded that plane." Holly had a unique singing style that featured vocal hiccups and a mix of regular voice and falsetto. His guitar playing was just as distinctive, with percussive solos, stops, bent notes, and rhythm and blues chord progressions. He often strummed downstrokes that perfectly complemented Allison's driving percussion. Holly's signature guitar was a Fender Stratocaster, which he bought for $249.50 at Herod Music in Lubbock. Known for its loud sound, the Fender Stratocaster was a popular choice among country musicians. Holly's playing style was innovative, blending chunky rhythm with high-string lead work. He played a 1954 Stratocaster until it was stolen in Michigan in 1957, then replaced it with a 1957 model before a show in Detroit. Throughout his career, Holly owned 4 or 5 Stratocasters. During the early days of their music careers, Holly and his band were known for their business suits. However, everything changed when they crossed paths with the Everly brothers. Don Everly, in his infinite wisdom, decided to take them to Phil's men's shop in the bustling city of New York. It was there that they were introduced to the world of Ivy League fashion. The Everly brothers, being the fashion gurus that they were, advised Holly to ditch his old-fashioned glasses and opt for something trendier. They suggested he try out the horn-rimmed glasses, which had gained popularity thanks to the one and only Steve Allen. Holly, always open to new ideas, purchased a pair of these glasses from a talented optometrist named Dr. J. Davis Armistead, who hailed from Lubbock, Mexico. Little did Holly know that his choice of eyewear would soon become a sensation among teenagers across the United States. These glasses, now famously known as Buddy Holly glasses, were in high demand. Everyone wanted to emulate their idol's iconic style. Tragically, when the plane crashed, scattering wreckage across the snowy terrain, Holly's signature glasses seemed to have vanished without a trace. While his other belongings were swiftly recovered, the glasses remained elusive. It wasn't until March 1980, over 2 decades later, that they resurfaced in an unexpected place. Sheriff Gerald Allen stumbled upon the long-lost glasses in a storage area of the Cerro Gordo County Courthouse. They had been discovered back in 1959, after the snow had melted, and were handed over to the sheriff's office. Placed in an envelope dated April 7, 1959, along with various items like the Big Bopper's watch, a lighter, dice, and part of another watch, the glasses had been misplaced during a courthouse relocation. However, the story doesn't end there. A legal battle ensued over the ownership of the glasses, involving Holly's parents. Eventually, after a year of contestation, the glasses, albeit without their lenses, were returned to Santiago, their rightful owner. It's remarkable how a simple pair of glasses can hold such significance and become a symbol of an era. Buddy Holly's glasses not only defined his style but also left an indelible mark on the fashion world and the hearts of his fans.